Sorry, that was a hiccup.
That's all bullshit.
What's up, you dues boppers? I am here today to talk to you about Season 1, Episode 2 of the OC, The Model Home. I was thinking today about my last video and how I wrote out the synopsis and the director and the writer and the air date and all this information that I found on IMDb, and then I thought to myself, hey self, what about those little booklets that they put in DVDs? There must be all this information in there, and you know what? There is. So if you don't know, Season 1, Episode 2, The Model Home, the teleplay was written by Josh Schwartz, the stories by Alan Heinberg and Josh Schwartz. It was directed by Doug Liman, and it originally aired August 12th, 2003. The synopsis is provided to you by whomever constructed this little book for the DVD. Reads as follows. When Ryan is faced with being shuffled into the child services system, Seth comes up with a plan. Ryan can secretly live in an unfinished home owned by Seth's mom. It's a foolproof plan. For a while. We begin in the recap with, for those of you counting at home, the second Welcome to the OC bitch. We open with Seth and Ryan in the pool. If we were meant to believe at all that these people were in high school, showing us their huge male bodies is not gonna sell me on that idea. The opening song, we're coming in hot with this jam called California by Rufus Wainwright. And it's just fun, it's boppy, it's light, it's like, oh, maybe this will be a nice little episode. Haha, great times. And then immediately, we're being, told that Ryan is being sent away to child services, and Kirsten and Sandy are having this conversation in the kitchen about, how hard it is to place a teenager, and all this business about, how horrible the system is, which I'm assuming is true. And, Ryan and Seth are just chilling in the pool. They're just relaxing, as Ryan would prefer, we find out. This episode really hits you over the head hard with the fact that the model home is the thing, as Kirsten is talking about a model home while looking at the model home model in front of her, and the model home, the phrase comes up so many times. There's a lot of mom shame in this episode, which I find kind of exhausting. At one point, Ryan walks in and he notices the model home and he looks at Kirsten and says, "Could you build me one?" And then he says, "Bad joke," and you're like, it was a bad joke. It was very awkward. She's clearly uncomfortable. She doesn't want you in her house in the first place, and now you're gonna joke with her about making her a new home. Once again, Ryan is really just hopeless. And it's kind of sad. And it's just uncomfortable and weird. And again, adding to all this mom guilt that we're really getting handed to us quite heavily in this episode. And then Sandy makes a bad joke to Kirsten, and they're, again, just dumping all over her about her terrible cooking. And Kirsten says it's a real laugh right around here. And I must be honest with you, that's the first time I laughed in the whole episode. As time goes on, we will come to love Kirsten, I think, as an audience, but right now, she's not our hero. Even though she recognizes the injustice in what is happening to Ryan, she also doesn't feel like it's her responsibility to do anything. If you're one of the noopsies, certainly it's not like it's encouraged in this community to be charitable in a real way if you can't dress up in fancy clothes for charity and express your desire to help people who are less fortunate by throwing a party, then what's the point? Not that it matters for the episode, but I'm very curious what is happening with Ryan's thumb when he is filling out the paperwork to be given away to the government. He has this bruise on his thumb, like he closed a door on his hand or something, and I don't know what it is, but it's really got my eye in this moment in the very, very beginning. I found it really laughable, again, because we looked at Ryan's adult human male body in the pool, that Sandy's going on and on about him in a group home, but he's so massive. The idea of him being placed with two other kids, as Sandy says, just brings so many images to mind, mostly that he's going to be with like children and he's a fully sized adult man. The suspension of disbelief is very important in these teen dramas. I understand, and I should just accept it and move on. Then we have the return to our glorious, magical, beautiful theme song, courtesy of Phantom Planet. Now, on the podcast, Josh Schwartz had a lot of talk about how this wasn't just going to be a teen drama. He was really going to involve the parents in the show, which is why I'm assuming Peter Gallagher and Kelly Rowan come first in the credits, because if it was going to be a show that was not centered on the teen drama, first of all, it's hilarious. Second of all, obviously you're going to put your, adults first. But third, I guess, probably they got put first in the credits, assumedly because they were actual actors and this wasn't like their first gig or whatever. But I don't know, I just found it interesting, and I have always really thought it was interesting that they put the parents first when Ben McKenzie and Adam Brody are very clearly our main characters, but the parents do have a lot of like story arcs in the show, so I guess it does make sense, but it's just intriguing how the system works. After the theme song, we cut to Ryan in the pool house and he's tossing and turning and he just is gonna run away. And Seth catches him, invites him inside to play PlayStation when he realizes Ryan's going to run away, and then Seth very sweetly is like, what about child services or my dad? And it's like, oh, Seth, look at you caring about your parent. Seth immediately finds a way to weasel into this little runaway plot line. And he talks to Ryan about how he always wanted to do the Kerouac thing, the Great Pancake Tour of America. I've never read On the Road. However, I know that I would have been head over heels in love with Seth if I were in high school at the same time as him, to be a young, dumb child and find him so charming and so relatable. And now, how embarrassing. So Seth is gonna help Ryan run away because he comes up with a plan, and the plan, spoiler alert, is to take him to the model home. Seth is in his room gathering supplies when we find out that Seth is actually a terrible liar, and his, lying throughout this episode comes up quite a lot. He's not good at it, but unlike Marissa, who assumedly lies all the time, it makes sense that Seth's parents wouldn't pick up on him lying, considering he probably never lies to them and hasn't really up until this point. We have possibly the best line to describe Seth. Sandy says, this is no place for sarcasm. And Seth says, I'm not being sarcastic. And Sandy says, it's hard to tell sometimes. That's Seth in a nutshell, you guys. Then Seth has this ridiculous flip off of his bed, which was just so amusing to see. I mean, Adam Brody really giving it his all in this episode. Ryan and Seth are meant to meet at the end of the driveway, and Ryan's just patiently waiting, and then Marissa comes out of her house in a beautiful sleeveless dress with a horrible cardigan, but the dress. Marissa's outfits in this episode are high quality. I love every one of them, from this initial outfit to her halter and green army pants outfit, to her blue outfit with the polka dot skirt. Ugh. The clothes on this girl. Ryan and Marissa are at the end of the driveway together again, and they're chatting. And Marissa thanks him for the other night. How she knew where she was, I don't know. She was like blackout drunk. She could have literally wound up anywhere. What a life to wonder how you got to the pool house. But I guess not even to wonder, just to be like, oh, glad I'm in a safe place. Great. She thanks him. Then Ryan says, yeah, do you always drink like that? Because he sees this poor little rich girl. What does she know about misery? Why is she drinking her life away, and she has everything available to her in this beautiful, wonderful place? When you're Ryan Atwood, a man from Chino who has nothing, no home, no family, nowhere to go. And Marissa just recklessly consumes alcohol, which Judgy Wudgy is not very keen on. Not that I am, but Ryan doesn't know her. But also Marissa is kind of... Then we have another stalker Seth moment when Marissa is talking about how she's going to her friend's birthday party, and Seth says Summer's birthday is not till Wednesday. And Marissa clocks it, and she's confused and surprised that Seth has this information. Then Marissa offers to drive Seth and Ryan wherever they're going because she sees that they have no real mode of transportation except a bicycle and a skateboard, and she has a full car available. So they get in the car and they drive to the model home. And on the way, we have a nice little development between Seth and Marissa's relationship, which, again, as a child, certainly watching this show and being, you know, just very anti-establishment, I was on Seth's side of judging Marissa and being very rude. But now as an adult woman, I'm thinking, oh, Seth, why are you so rude to her? Specifically, the line when he says, I listen to the same music as Marissa Cooper, I think I have to kill myself. Something I certainly would have said 10, 15 years ago. But now, it's like, you know, as Uncle Walt told us, we contain multitudes, friends. They have a very interesting dynamic, and it's hard to know based on the fact that, like, Josh Schwartz was a East Coast implant into the West Coast, how much of this, and especially because he was, like, 27, you know, when he was writing this show and producing it, when he started anyway. It's a wonder to me how much of these opinions have changed over time, especially now that he's been in California for so long. If he still feels like just an outsider who's, you know, too cool for everybody here and he's gonna just judge them, or if he has grown, like myself, to say, you know what, I can like the Sex Pistols and Marissa Cooper can like the Sex Pistols. Then Ryan and Marissa are having a little heart-to-heart on the edge of the empty pool at the model home, and he's telling her that his dad's in jail, so we're really finding out that Ryan has no one. Then Marissa is talking about, you know, the suspicious G-men who came for her dad and how she feels like something's wrong because he's been working from home a lot and he hasn't gone into the office and he's being so cagey all the time. And, you know, we're aware of the fact that teenagers notice things because teenagers aren't stupid, which I do think is also kind of a big part of this show. Obviously not completely, because they do a lot of stupid things in this show because they are teenagers, but at the same time, it's one of those vibes, certainly like a, you know, John Green or John Hughes or anybody who made a teen movie ever in their lifetime that's like, teenagers know more than you think. Of course, we do appreciate it because teenagers do know more than you think, and everybody, I think, can think back to feeling like you're a teenager who knows more than the world wants you to, and you're stuck with that knowledge, and then it just makes you depressed. It's still important to think about, and, you know, I'm sure probably as everybody who's rewatching this show now is like an adult and probably gonna have kids of their own or whatever, it's a sensation that I think you can stay familiar with, and it's sweet and it's endearing and it's important because teenagers don't get enough credit most of the time, and especially now. I mean, watching this whole episode and thinking about the fact that they're living in a time without unlimited information the way that we are now, it's so interesting to consider the fact that they're all in this model home and nobody knows where they are, and that is true for the rest of the episode, right? And even like further down the line as things progress in the show, they don't have like smartphones. They have regular cell phones, sure, to carry around with them and like make phone calls and send texts, but I can't think of a single time when anybody's texted anybody in the show, but they do call each other a lot, and it's just amazing to think that by the time the show is over, like iPhones were coming out, and it just happened in such a short period of time, and this just feels like, to me, I don't know, just such a precious little moment in time. Now that that tangent's over about cell phones and how old I feel, Ryan has a moment where Marissa is telling him all of this stuff and how she's like, I haven't told anybody this, and Ryan says, I can keep a secret. And you know that he can. He's just such a good person. That's like a huge thing. Ryan Howard is just a good person, and at this point he's very broken and like very sad, and he has nothing. I was gonna say very little, but he sincerely has nothing, and you know, he will keep the secret from Marissa because he cares about her even though they just met, and it's just so sweet. Then Marissa fully lays into Seth about how he thinks he's so much better than everyone else, which again is a huge character trait of Seth's, that he does think he's better than everyone else. And again, certainly as an indie rock kid in the early 2000s, we did all think we were better than everyone else. And we probably still do a little bit, but some of us, myself included, have certainly grown to say, you know what? Like what you like, be who you are, we'll all be friends, it doesn't matter, or I won't talk to you, and that's it. I don't need to be loathing you and hating you, but it is difficult. I do think, again, this whole dynamic of them being teenagers, it's hard when you're a teenager to not judge other teenagers. But Seth is kind of funky. It's weird in this moment too for him to be like, yeah, Marissa, I've lived next door to you forever and you've never said or done anything to me. It's like, what the fuck do you want from her? An award? I don't understand. You're just not friends. You were never gonna be friends. It doesn't matter if your parents are even weirdly friends. Leave her alone, Seth. Chill the fuck out. And then they go back inside and Marissa's on the phone with Summer and Seth keeps pestering her to tell Summer happy birthday, and Summer very aptly goes, who? When Marissa says it, which Marissa covers by saying she says thanks. Then Seth is, very rude to Marissa, implying that she can't keep a secret. And where Ryan told us he can keep a secret, and you fully believe him, Marissa says, I can keep a secret, and you don't. And I don't know if that's just because of who she is, or because we're not supposed to, but I don't think Marissa Cooper can keep a secret. I'm here to say it. I think she's got loose lips, baby. Then the next day, the police are called by Kirsten because Ryan is missing and no one knows where he is, and it's very distressing, and Seth makes a joke about him going to Mexico to watch cockfighting, which is so ridiculous. But then Seth says, I never got to know the guy. He was a complete stranger to me. And again, we play some dramatic music and just put our little, camera on Kirsten to say, see what you did there, Kiki? You prevented the greatest male friendship ever to be put on television. Why would you? How rude. Then we go to the Cooper household where Jimmy is in distress and Julie comes in to say that she needs a check to go to the stables. I don't know what rich people are doing, but Jimmy sounds so exhausted when he says, does Caitlin really need a pony? And it is not even knowing that he is having some sort of financial trouble, but just the thought of a person, again, just being so wealthy that they don't know what to do with themselves, but thinking for a second about what you're spending your money on, to just be so exhausted by this whole world was so amusing to me. He was just so funny. Once again, Julie is letting us know that she just wants to be a real housewife. She just wants to live this life of luxury and know nothing about how it comes to her or if it will ever go away. And she lets us know that when she tells Jimmy, I don't like to talk about this stuff, when he's trying to talk to her about work, which I guess is fine, but it's a strange dynamic to have these two people who are married to each other just be so disconnected. But, it's just setting us up for something in the future, just to say, why are they together anyway? We don't really know. Marissa is being cornered by Luke first thing in the morning when she's meant to go meet Seth so that they can take supplies to Ryan. And she is lying to Luke about what she's doing with her day when she's going to go see Suki for her bikini wax, and she tells Luke that he can get a manicure. And in contrast to Marissa's horrible lying in the first episode, she is lying so effortlessly here, and I don't know if it's because she sincerely wants to just go see Ryan or because she's better at lying about something that she actually cares about. We know this girl's gotten bikini waxes and manicures before, and she's lying with just such grace. It's so quick. It's just rolling off her tongue. And Luke is just like, see you later, babe. We have Seth and Marissa meeting up with Ryan at the model home, and she gives him the model home mix. And it's so sweet because we find out Ryan doesn't really listen to music in the first act, and we all would echo Seth's claim that that is weird because it is weird. But she makes him a mix CD because, spoiler alert, Marissa Cooper has good taste in music, you guys. It's very sweet. And we know that's a sign of true love. You give a mixtape, that is pouring your heart out, putting your soul out on the table. And Ryan, of course, like hides it from Seth kind of quickly, but assumedly they're listening to it later in the episode. But it is still just a very intimate, like sweet little thing to get a mix CD from your crush. It's so cute. And Ryan probably hasn't experienced that before, I'm assuming, based on the fact that he doesn't listen to music. Nevertheless, he knows it's a big deal, and so do we. Then they're talking about all the supplies that they don't have, notably food, and there's this beautiful montage, classic moment of Ryan and Seth and Marissa riding down the boardwalk on the bike and the skateboard, and the song called Caught by the River, which is performed by Doves, is playing. And it's such a huge teen movie moment, the montage, and all of them just looking so happy and laughing. I felt truly swept away while this was happening, just thinking of like the freedom and joy you have of being a teenager, because ultimately, yes, horrible things are happening in Ryan's life, not great things are happening in Marissa's, but they just have this just beautiful moment to just be alive and just to be riding down this pier and to experience just the wind on their faces, and they're going to this diner, and it's so sweet. I loved watching it. I love watching it. And, you know, of course we get to see it over and over again because it is the thing that is part of Marissa's, like, opening credit for the first season anyway. And I love it. I love it so much. It's truly a John Hughes moment. We briefly cut back to the Cohen home where Sandy and Kirsten are having a discussion, and Kirsten is trying to figure out what to do about these contractors for the model home who have disappeared, as we found out earlier in the episode. And Sandy is very distraught about Ryan missing, and he's very upset that Kirsten called the police because the police don't have the manpower to find him, and he's going to, quote, slip through the cracks, which I don't know what the child service system is like. I certainly don't know what it's like in Southern California, but slip through the cracks? He's just gonna be a homeless teen? Like my own private Idaho? I don't know, man. Kirsten asks him very just straight up, point blank, like, why this kid? What is so special about Ryan? And Sandy has this moment where he says, just very, you know, sincerely, that he was this kid, and if someone hadn't helped him, he doesn't know, he wouldn't be here. And he has this moment that could be like a roll your eyes savior moment, but he makes it just really sincere, and it's just so genuine, and it's such a good performance from Peter that you don't feel like you want to roll your eyes at him after he's done talking, because you're like, you do really just want to help, you want to do your job as like a public defender, and you just want to protect this kid who you see some of yourself in, and that is, again, just, it's precious. They've got such a great little relationship. Then Kirsten gets a very suspicious phone call from Jimmy about meeting up because he needs something from her. We all know it's money, Jimbo. She's known you forever. She's no fool. While Jimmy is on the phone with Kirsten, Julie comes in to say China, the pony, has alopecia. And the look again on Tate Donovan's face, his eyes just get huge, and he looks so bewildered by the idea that she would come in such a frantic huff over a pony having alopecia, and it's magical. We learn in this episode that Ryan wants to be involved in construction. It is a very curious thought to be like, you know what I'm gonna do to my character? I'm gonna make him really into construction and architecture. And I guess it's supposed to be like a double take moment to be like, Ryan wants to be an architect, but he's a poor kid from Geno. It comes up so often, and he talks to Seth and Marissa about how he's gonna go to Texas to meet up with one of his mom's ex-boyfriends for a construction job, which again just feels like, oh, what a dumb teenager, not thinking anything through, just to be like, I'm gonna go to Texas to meet up with a man who dated my mom once in my life, who had me do construction with him. Sure, great plan. Again, speaking up for my little teens in media, obviously you're frantic, you only have so many ideas, and your little, you know, unformed brain is gonna say, this is great, let's do it. When any adult person would say, maybe you should think about this a little bit longer. And that's where I'm at watching the show. Oh yeah, we're gonna buy a bus ticket to send him to Texas. Okay. What? So they're having this conversation and they're talking about the next steps in this diner. And who should walk in but Luke and his stupid surfing cronies. I'm assuming they surf. That's never actually established. They all play water polo, we know for sure, but surfing is questionable. Either way, they all come into this diner with such like atrocious swagger. They all separately punch the door to indicate that they are here, and they like punch the door open and they're like, what's it take to get a menu around here? It's like, fuck off, jabronis. Marissa tries to distract them so that Ryan and Seth can leave undetected, and the initial plan to go out the back door is a failure because a waitress catches them, as she should, stopping them from being in the back area. Then Ryan goes out first and Luke doesn't notice him, but then Seth, of course, crashes into a tray because he's such a klutz, such a foolish little dork, and Luke makes fun of him and he calls him queer. And again, if you're clocking things Luke's saying, second time he's dropped a little queer in there, which I know that's how people talked. How many times did Disney Channel stars tell me that gay was not an insult? It's a way a person is. I suppose more than they told Luke or Josh Schwartz. We've learned, and that's what's important. It is intriguing how Seth's entire demeanor changes when he's amongst these bullies, like these full, just like Biff from Back to the Future. And unlike Marty McFly, who doesn't seem to be very fazed by Biff, he's just like annoyed by him. Seth is sincerely just so jittery and like nervous and scared, and it is just like, what happened to you? What did they do to you, Seth? You are a completely different person around these bullies, and man, how sad. Ryan comes in to confront Luke because Luke is picking on Seth, and Ryan is a good friend, even if he is a little too aggressive, because Ryan delivers the highlight of this episode.
You know what I like about rich kids? Nothing.
I don't like anything about rich kids either. The kids are all back at the model home having a discussion about Ryan unnecessarily punching Luke and how Luke is an ass. And again, Seth's entire demeanor is completely different. When Marissa walks in, he just goes, "Sup, foo?" You're just like, who is this person and where is this person when he's amongst all these other humans that he finds to be beneath him? It makes him more endearing and less obnoxious, I think, to have him be so afraid of these people, but also so rude about them behind their backs. So they're in the model home, the children, when Kiki and Jimmy walk in and they're having a little chit chat and they're talking about how pretty the model home is and the contractors are coming tomorrow and, oh, this was modeled after your parents' house. That's where I had my first kiss. That's where I had my first kiss too. Hey, can I have $100,000? Sure, I know where you live. You'll pay me back. What? I love my friends. Would I ever give them just $100,000, no questions asked? I don't know. I don't know. Who can? I mean, I watched Breaking Bad this year, a couple months ago, and when Skylar was giving money to her former boss, former lover, spoilers, I immediately thought of Jimmy Cooper, because I said to myself, this man is stupid, and I don't trust that he's going to be good for this money based on the fact that he lost so much already. Regardless, $100,000 is so much money just to give away. I don't know why she trusts him. She's not that stupid. And then she's not going to trust Ryan just because Ryan got in a couple fist fights and he was arrested, big fucking whoop. Jimmy Cooper lost $100,000, but you're going to trust him with $100,000 more dollars, Kirsten? Riddle me that, Batman. Again, I know Kirsten is not our hero yet, but we move into Act 3. And Marissa is at this party with her friends and everyone's acting all... They're all just like stupid teenagers, and Marissa's feeling very guilty about being so rich, which is understandable. And then she leaves. And she goes back to the model home because Ryan is supposed to be leaving. Seth is going to bring him a bus ticket and he's going to go far away to Texas, never to be seen or heard from again. And this is another moment certainly where I was like, man, if they only knew that there would be Facebook and they'd probably be bugging each other online 10 years from now, would this be that serious? Probably, but maybe not. Again, such a precious moment in time. So Marissa goes to the model home to meet up with Ryan, and we get our first taste of Jeff Buckley's classic cover of Hallelujah, aka Marissa and Ryan's theme song, baby. And Marissa says, this song reminds me of you. And you're like, of course it fucking does, Marissa. It reminds all of us of Ryan and you and your whole sordid history together, but we'll get to it, you guys. We'll get to it. Ryan has all these fucking candles lit all over the place, which I don't understand other than as a plot device in the future. But what do you need all these candles for? How much later are you going to stay up? What time is it even now? Why did you light so many candles, Ryan? What is this for? And then Marissa has this whole awkward moment of being like, well, what if you leave and you never. And Ryan is, again, just giving us award-worthy performances by, saying, you're going back to school in the fall. What would we be? You can't sleep over. I wouldn't leave in the morning. I'm just going to stay here like a ghost. And I'm being rude right now, being overdramatic because he is being overdramatic, but he does it in such a believable way that you're like, oh, keep going, Ben McKenzie. Stick with this drama. My little babies in their Shakespeare play. I love it. She's like, we're not from different worlds. It's not true. And Ryan's like, I'm not like you. And she goes, huh. And then he says, go, please, go. And he turns completely from the camera. And then Marissa runs out of the house. Oh, it's just so sad, and Hallelujah's still playing because if there's one thing that people on this show did, it's edit music into these episodes well. Everything that is a musical cue in the OC is perfect. The music in this show is cinematically produced, and this little montage is no exception to that. We got Marissa running away and crying, and then, we're closing in on this monster truck that we see behind the screen, which I don't know how Marissa didn't see it, or how nobody saw him pull up because he surely had his lights on, and the front of that car is freaking huge, but again, whatever. Anyway, we're pulling into Luke's face, and Luke sees Marissa, and he's just like... And then we have Seth and Sandy driving around looking for Ryan, and it's all very heartfelt and, very sweet. Marissa's just crying, and we have the, music playing while Kirsten is like, yeah, I'd like to transfer some money. It's a perfect little montage. So, Ryan is up with all the candles and all the mixtape, and he thinks Seth is arriving with his bus ticket when, surprise, Luke is back, baby, to fight you. And he says, tell me what you were doing with my girlfriend or I'll kill you. And Ryan, in a true moment to me that felt like a man with nothing to lose, said, then kill me and quit talking about it. This guy, does he want to be dead? I mean, it kind of feels that way in this moment. He's got nothing else going on. Like, do you want Luke to kill you? I believe that you do. So, once again, where's Ben McKenzie's Emmy for this? They get in a fist fight. Of course, all these candles come into play and just burn the fucking house down, or part of the house anyway, not the whole thing, but still enough of it that you're just like, why did you have all these candles in the first place, you freak? Also, why is this fire going up so quickly? What is happening? But the drama never ceases in Orange County, and that is something you can take to the bank, my friends. Then one of Luke's friends says, "This place is on fire, man, we gotta go." No shit. Thanks. And then Luke has a moment of, I don't know, good conscience, where he comes inside to take Ryan out of the burning building, and I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. Am I happy? Is this supposed to be a redeeming quality of Luke's? I'm very unsure, but I gotta tell you, I don't care. I don't like Luke, and at this moment I'm convinced I never will. And then Luke, in a moment that feels to me like a person who's fucked up a lot in his life and been caught for it or denied it, says to Ryan after he pulls him out and dumps him on the floor, "Run!" It's like, what other sort of mischief have you found yourself in, Luke? What other buildings have you accidentally burned down? Then we cut to the Cooper house. And Jimmy is watching ESPN Classics because if there's one thing we know about Jimmy, it's that he lives in the past because things were better back then at another time, like when he was dating Kirsten or when Julie was pregnant with Marissa and they were watching this Lakers-Pistons game and he wasn't $100,000 in debt to multiple people and his life was simpler. Ultimately, Jimmy's pathetic. We know that to be true in just the small amount of time we've spent with him. Julie gives us a very charming moment of saying, "I can't believe I've been alive long enough to watch people play basketball in these shorts." That line of Julie's, I think, is one of the moments that they gave her to make her more fun, because she's just fun to watch. She's a fun performer. We love her. And it's almost endearing to have her be like, "I'm so old." And you're like, "Oh, Julie." Marissa comes bursting through the doors and she's very upset, and we get the first "Marissa" from Julie, and she does it so much throughout the course of the series. It's something I would like to mash all together to see how many times it happens, because just the way she says it, I can't even say it right, but she says it almost like she perks up and she's like a little dog barking. "Marissa?" Jimmy goes after her because she's sobbing, and we find her lying on her bed, which is as long as she is, which is crazy because she's very tall and it looks like a huge bed, but she's still touching the very edge of it. Mind-boggling. He's having a very like tender moment. It does make you feel like he's an actual dad to this person. He is like rubbing her back. He's like, oh, it's okay. Come on, tell me. We tell each other everything. And then Marissa very ominously goes, "Do we?" You're just like, you don't. I mean, we both know that you don't, but you know, it sounds like something truly horrible has happened to you, Marissa, based on the way that you're delivering this line. Then we find Luke back at Holly's, where we have a moment that Summer delivers, which is similar in my mind to the moment Julie has about the basketball shorts, where she goes, "You smell like smoke." And she sincerely sounds like a drunk girl, which is very impressive. Rachel Bilson's out here just doing it as a guest star, and we love her for it. But she says, "You smell like smoke." And then Luke is like, "Oh yeah, we were hotboxing." And she goes, "Without me?" And it's just such a solid performance, even for just like 3 lines. She's doing a great job. Luke presumably just starts driving around looking for Ryan, and when he finds him he says, "You're okay," and Ryan says, "Disappointed." And you're like, oh man, these two, this dynamic, this Emilio Estevez and Judd Nelson over here, I just can't get enough. He's so nervous about getting in trouble for burning down this house, even though he should be, and he should be in trouble for it because he burned down a house, but he's just like trying to get Ryan to like agree to not tell anybody, which is psychotic, and it's a stupid request, and it's clearly coming from someone who's living in fear of consequences, but you deserve to have these horrible consequences that will be coming for you based on the awful actions you took. I hate Luke. Ryan is like, "You're gonna take me somewhere," and Luke is like, "Where?" and we don't know. And we find Seth and Sandy and Kirsten at the model home, and it's all very suspicious and weird, and you know, Seth immediately gives it up to say, this is my fault. Eventually we get back to the Cohen home, and the police are there trying to figure out what happened and why Seth even let Ryan stay in the model home. And another wonderful performance coming here from our main cast of characters, Adam Brody, almost crying when he is complaining to Sandy about living amongst these pod people, is so good. He really sells it for me. Knowing, based on interviews I've watched, how chill a person Adam Brody seems to be, and knowing what kind of performances he delivers, and just that he can really run the gamut of just giving us a solid performance no matter what he is doing. This is, you know, no exception, because he does seem like a very distraught and sad teenage boy, and he really hates where he lives. And he's really letting us know that by almost crying to Sandy. It's so good. The police are downstairs. They got a couple more questions, says Sandy, and they're going down to talk to him when Luke's big-ass truck rolls up. And who should get out but the unlikeliest of duos, Ryan Atwood and Luke, whose name probably exists, but I don't remember it. And then they get taken away to the police station, and that is the end of the episode. Notably, Ryan has crazy looking black eyes, and I understand that he was attacked by 3 different men, and Ryan only punched Luke once, but his eye makeup feels nuts to me. There is on the DVD a music guide, which I thought would either be like a commentary on the songs in the show, or like a pop-up video style little fun facts just flashing across the screen. And this is what I discovered. Ultimately, disappointing, but hilarious. This episode got an 8.5 rating on IMDb. Not as high as the 9.0 that the pilot got, but still a high rating for this episode because it's still great. And if Marissa's outfits and the music weren't enough to convince you to want to come back next week, I don't know what could. If you'd like to follow along, these episodes are available on HBO Max, and I've put links in the description for music that is featured in the episode that I talked about, because the music in the show, as I went on about, is so good, and it'll really help you establish the kind of music snobbery that Seth Cohen has held himself to. Thank you for watching.